We want to use the leading coefficient test to determine the end behavior of the graph of the following polynomials. Now there's two things that you need to take into consideration. One is you need to look at the degree of the polynomial and look at whether it's odd or even. And the second thing is you also need to look at the leading coefficient and see whether it's positive or negative. So I have all the four cases for you, so you'll be able to see how each of these are different. So we start with the first one, and you'll see that the leading coefficient in this case, well, the leading term is 5x to the 7th. Now x to the 7th, the degree is odd. And you'll see that 5 is a positive term. So when the degree is odd and the leading coefficient is positive, your graph looks like this. It rises in the right and falls in the left. And the example graph that you want to keep in mind for a situation like this is what is the graph of x cubed look like? The graph of x cubed looks like this. It rises in the right and falls in the left. So that's a good example of that. Now the second problem, B, you have x to the 4th, that's an even power, and you have -2, the coefficient is negative. So what you want to do is think of what the graph of negative x squared looks like. Now you know that the graph of x squared looks like this. So the graph of negative x squared is the exact upturned version. It looks like this. So when the leading coefficient is negative and the degree is even, what happens in this case is that your graph falls right and falls left. Okay, now the next example, we again have an even power. We have x squared, and we also have the leading coefficient is positive because it's 3. So in this case, you want to think about the example, well, just x squared, and you know what the graph of x squared looks like. It just rises up in both the directions. So this is going to be a graph that rises left and rises right. Finally, we come to the last example, that's negative x to the 5th. Now this is the case that we haven't dealt with yet. So you'll see that x to the 5th means that the degree is odd, and the negative sign over here indicates that the leading coefficient is less than 0, or it's negative. Now in a case like this, the example that you want to keep in mind is you want to think about what the graph of negative x cubed looks like, because that's a graph that has a negative sign and an odd term. This is a graph that looks like this. It rises. It's the exact opposite of the x cubed graph that I drew in the beginning. So in this case, what happens is the graph rises in the left and falls in the right.